First off, thanks for everyone for joining. Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are, and welcome. Really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your schedules to delve into the world of competitive intelligence. Really appreciate it. My name's Ian. I think I've met a decent amount of you, but just to give you some background, I work on the research and insights team closely with Lou and my other counterparts, Kareem and Paul as well. Really anything research and insights, we're the go-to. So if you have any questions related to tools or obviously accessing any data research, right, we're the go-to. So definitely reach out to us. As you guys know, right, today we're really going to be talking about competitive intelligence. And we've kind of set it out here as three sections, really, or kind of three crucial sections for us. There's definitely a lot more that we won't necessarily cover today. We can cover, in future sessions or with more in-depth trainings with the partners directly. But, as kind of, Q1 has been going on, we've been seeing a lot of, competitive requests coming from not only the clients, but obviously, right, our internal teams here. And we've got a good group of people here. They should be a mixture of planners, right? We have the analytics team, some strategy folks as well. So it's a good mix. And I think every team, right, and in the past or once or twice has at least asked for competitive data before. So excited to kind of walk through what we've got today. We're just going to quickly touch on, the kind of what is competitive intelligence, what does our team use it for, right? How do we best effectively use it for Google? We'll move on to kind of what our tools are, our toolkit, right? What platforms we have access to, for and kind of what is at our disposal for competitive analyses. And right, kind of the big one really, and I'm going to try to get there as quick as possible because I think that's the most important part for a lot of those who have joined, is really how do I generate a report? How do I get the data out of the tools so you can use it, right? So let's dive right in. And of course, guys, as we're going through this, please feel free to drop any questions you have in the chat, raise the hand, hopefully you guys do have questions and we can answer them. So definitely feel free. Great. So just as a step back, I know, right, we have a mixed group here. Some of you might be very familiar with competitive intelligence tools, the platforms. You might already be pretty comfortable diving into our tools, and that's great. I'm very glad. And you might be just using this time as a refresher, but some of you, this might be brand new. So we just kind of wanted to level set here with everyone and really, point to the fact that, what is competitive intelligence, right? But really what is competitive intelligence is what we're referring to is kind of how we approach, the gathering and the analyzing, right, of all this information about, our competitors, our market, right, the category itself. And how do we take that data and assess it to better understand the competitive landscape or better understand kind of where Google is, right, within that competitive landscape, right? What is our market share maybe? What are some competitive edges? What are the, potential white spaces that maybe we can explore and take advantage of for Google? And right there on the bottom, right, these are just some examples. We can, using our competitive intelligence tools, we can have a better understanding of obviously media spend. I think that's a big one for everyone, right? Channel trends. Are we playing in TV while we see Samsung, right? Are they playing in more so OTT, right? Are they spending a lot more in other channels that maybe we're not spending, and vice versa, right? Category competitor updates. Maybe we're seeing huge shifts in the category going from one media channel or one tactic, maybe to another, right? And then, of course, right, creative messaging and analysis, right? Not only where are our competitors spending and what channels, but, how are they presenting their products or, how are they presenting their messaging, right, to our consumers? Again, maybe there's a new campaign launch as well, and we want to understand, okay, what are, what is Microsoft doing, right? How are they talking to the market right now? And of course, right, this is an ongoing analysis. This is something that we should be always just keeping in mind, right? And we should be always on the lookout for maybe some emerging competitors. Of course, as we all know, right, AI is the hot new thing. So right, this is something that we should always be aware of. But these are just some of the things, right, that competitive intelligence can help us be informed on. And then again, we take that and we can use it to, better position Google in the marketplace. So this next step, this is just kind of another, I guess, some things we wanted to level set with everyone on the team. I think these are really important to understand, to really truly, again, just understand competitive intelligence in general. It's not just one number, right? It's not really just let's get how much spend um, Samsung is spending, for instance, on TV, right? There's a lot more than just that. Now, I know there are a lot of times, right, even internally and with client requests, they just want to understand how much did so-and-so competitors spend during this month. And that's totally fine, but we just did want to level set, right, that there's a lot more information that we can take in to better understand the competitive landscape, right? So we can look beyond just media spend. We can take a look at, right, how are they communicating? Again, the creatives, right? We can understand a bunch of these elements and then better gauge how our competitors are behaving in media. But then, right, how can we best leverage that information to set up Google, right, for success? This look for relationship and trends, not absolute numbers, is really, really key. If there's one thing I hope everyone takes away from um, this time is to truly understand that don't take these spend numbers from these platforms as absolutes. They're never going to, and I bolded it, they're never going to match your actuals. And that's something that I think some teams have noticed, well, in the past. Some clients have obviously asked questions is, why is, I know we spent 3 million on TV in the month of October. Why are these competitive tools or your resources saying that we only spent 1 million, right? That's a lot of money that it's not capturing. But we did want to say that competitive tracking inherently, and it's really just a limitation of the competitive tracking tools and the landscape itself, is that it's an imperfect science. It's largely this imperfection, right? Or these kind of intelligence gaps are equitable across brands. And for instance, right, competitive tracking tools don't collect and report every digital ad served, right? They use sampling to make estimations about ads served. So again, and we'll dig a little deeper into this in the following section, but we just wanted to make it clear to everyone that it's not a perfect science. We understand that a lot of the times these won't match our actuals. If you pull Google in using our tools, it won't necessarily match one-to-one. And there's a bunch of different reasons for it. Quite possibly it could be the fact that the tool didn't pick up on that activity, but we're going to dive deeper as we move along into maybe some reasons as to why, right, your reported spends will not match your actual spends. And that's really key here, guys. We just wanted to make sure that everyone understands that, hey, we know that the numbers won't always be exact to your reported. These aren't really absolute, but the way we should use them is really as directional indicators rather than absolute, especially in the sense that, right, all of these imperfections, or I guess all of this is to say that's kind of, we're looking at these competitors in an apples to apples view, because inherently, right, these inequities are across every brand, right? It's kind of just inherently a part of the competitive landscape. So really just wanted to harp. That's it. We'll touch on that later throughout the deck. And lastly here, right, we just want to say that you can look at a lot of these metrics as, for a gauge of strategy. So for instance, right, we can take a look at the channel and partner mixes to help identify for Google, right, maybe where we should show up, or maybe where the marketplace is a little too congested, for lack of a better term, right? Maybe there's too much activity in a certain channel or on a certain publisher, and it's maybe just too noisy for us to really cut through. Or, on the other side of things, maybe we find a space, a media channel, a publisher, right, using this data that we don't see a lot of our competitors playing in, which might be a great opportunity for us. Of course, share of spend can, help guide us, right, to ensure we're investing the right amount of money in the right channels and making sure, right, we're setting a foundation for growth for us. And then, of course, share of voice indicates how much a consumer is likely to see it, right, Google, our brand, versus maybe a competitor brand, and, right, as they engage with media. So all of these things can really help us answer those questions. And there are a lot of different metrics we can use to kind of gauge strategy. This here is just really how I don't know, we had a little other arrow. I'm not sure why it's not showing up, but anyway, really what I wanted to visualize here for us is that activity, or kind of what we can pull out of our competitive resources tools, right? What did the brands do? Either spend or impressions, or we get a better understanding of their seasonality, or When are they flighting? When are they flighting, and when are they heavying up the most, right? We can take these activities by our competitors and try to tie them sometimes to maybe brand health metrics out of brand index, right? YouGov's brand index, or maybe social listening metrics, right? We can tie spend to maybe an increase in social metrics, obviously sales, site traffic, right? We have access to the tool SimilarWeb. And search behavior, we can use Google search trends to maybe see that, okay, we know our competitors spent a ton of money in October. We tie it to Google search trends. We see that actually search trends for our competitor did increase in the month of October. I know that's really high level, but we just wanted to see or kind of visualize for everyone how we can take kind of our competitive intelligence, tie it to some other data that our teams have access to, and really provide kind of a bigger picture for Google, and maybe unlock some insights that maybe we wouldn't have thought of in the past. Oh, there it goes. I guess it was animated. Great. So here, these are our primary competitive resources. I think some of you are pretty familiar, might have logins. Again, if you do need logins to Vivix and Pathmatics, definitely reach out to the R&I team. Feel free to email us or ping us in the back of this deck, which we'll also leave behind. We have our contact info or email, so feel free to send us a little note. But for our competitive resources, we have really two sources of truth. We have Vivix, which is going to be our traditional media and paid search source of truth. And then we have Pathmatics, which is our digital and social media source of truth. Both, right, offer kind of similar things, right? They're going to provide us media channels. They're going to provide us spend for those competitors. But again, right, Pathmatics is going to be our go-to for anything digital or social media related. And Vivix is going to be our go-to for anything traditional and paid search. Now, there are a few caveats. Pixel, right, for at least the Pixel team, their source of truth is actually going to be Nielsen. They exclusively use Nielsen. So if you're part of the Pixel team, just recognize that the R&I team kind of houses, I guess, the Pixel Nielsen data. But not all that to say that it's still important to understand these tools. Maybe you switch PAs. I think just understanding these tools inherently is just a great skill. And then also, I think it got cut off again on the bottom as well. But Pixel and YouTube, those teams, you guys also have access to iSpot. iSpot is a great resource for any kind of TV specific competitive intelligence. It's great for pulling creatives. It's great because it's so quick, and maybe we can pull something in real time. So if we saw an ad run in the Super Bowl and the next day we wanted to pull it, we totally could. So that's just a few caveats there. But for every other PA, your sources of truth are going to be Vivix. It's going to be Pathmatics. For Pixel, you use Nielsen data. And then also Pixel and YouTube, you kind of have some extra tools at your disposal for TV specifically. Yeah, go ahead, Lou.
Thanks. Yeah, just to jump in and explain as well is, you might be saying, well, why is this the case, right? In each different way. There's a number of different reasons. There's some global scope that's included with Nielsen, which is why we also manage it through that source, and it's delivered in a different way. We can't pull it ourselves. We get it delivered by Nielsen itself because there's some manipulation of the data that needs to be done ahead of time. And both Nielsen and iSpot have separate contracts, which Google pays for in order for us to access. These other tools, Vivix and Pathmatics, are included within Group M's offering, right? We have contracts with them, but we have separate contracts for iSpot as well as Nielsen. So just wanted to make that, in case that clears it up for anybody.
Mm-hmm. Great. No, thank you for that context. And also, team, we need logins. We have unlimited logins for Vivix. So don't, if you even think that you'd want to log in, feel free to ping us. We'll get you set up. Pathmatics is slightly different, but right now we have a decent amount. So feel free to send us a note. If you have a team member on your team who kind of wants to be the champion of competitive requests when they come through for your PA, definitely have them get set up and reach out to us as well. Great. So right here, guys, is going to be a visualization of what these tools cover, what Vivix covers and has access to in terms of competitive, spend data, competitive ad data, right? And what channels they actually really just don't have any kind of insight to. So as you see here, right, Vivix actually has a pretty extensive coverage across all channels, right? They have all the traditional media channels here, but they just don't have podcasts, and that's actually just honestly a hole, or I guess a gap in intelligence across all of the competitive tools landscapes, right? There aren't many tools that I know of that actually capture competitive spend specific to podcasts. So that's just going to be a gap in our intelligence. And then on the right-hand side, you see Pathmatics. Again, it's not going to have any traditional media, but it will have digital media. And again, it's going to be our source of truth. So even though, right, Vivix does have digital display and video and does have mobile app, for instance, we're not going to pull that data from Vivix. We're going to pull it from Pathmatics. And that's because actually at a group M level, they recommend Pathmatics as a source of truth due to their methodology. Now back to, I just wanted to quickly harp on the fact that back to the call that I had earlier where why don't my actuals match my reported? Here's one case, right? We see that, for instance, if your campaign was running a lot of audio or running a lot of podcast media, that's, right off the bat, right? That's a gap there. We don't really have any insight into that. So if you did spend heavily, for instance, in that channel, we wouldn't really have insight into that. So again, it could be just a limitation of the channels that these tools have access to. And to build on that, and we know a lot of the teams come with us with questions on specifically the digital data. And I know there's a lot to take in here. Obviously, we're here to help and answer any questions if you guys, after this meeting. But all of that to say is this really does help you visualize, what is captured and what isn't. So maybe our actuals aren't matching the reported spends, and maybe that's because, right, we ran a lot of Facebook desktop activity, and as you can see here, right, Pathmatics doesn't capture Facebook desktop activity. It doesn't capture Pinterest desktop activity, but it does capture Facebook mobile. So those are just some of the nuances and things to keep in mind. Now, I'm not saying you have to memorize all of these, right? I linked out there on the bottom left-hand side the link to directly the knowledge base for Pathmatics for your reference in the future. But even here on the right side, right, we see that, okay, maybe it does still capture certain, right, media channels, but it doesn't capture every ad format on that media channel, or it doesn't capture every tactic on that media channel. All of that to say is that, these are some of the reasons why maybe your digital spend numbers aren't matching your actuals, or these reported spend numbers aren't matching your actuals, right? We see that some mid-rolls and post-rolls for mobile video aren't captured, right? We see that mobile video on the bottom there for sites and ad networks, right? We're not going to be able to get much more past YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Right, you see there, we don't have any capture for Facebook mobile for pre-rolls and mid-rolls. So again, this is just to help visualize for the team that, if even though maybe Facebook mobile is captured, maybe not certain tactics or certain, ad formats on that platform or media device are captured, again, which could affect or be the reason as to why your actuals don't ever really match reported. Great. Now, I know I really went through that quickly, but I did want to dive into the tools because I think that's really what everyone really kind of wants to get out of this training is really how do I get the data out of the tools? I know I did go through it quickly, but of course, definitely reach out with any questions. And, after we hop off, we're here to support. And if there's anything kind of you want to dive deeper on, you have any more additional questions, of course, the R&I team's here to help support that. So we're going to start with Pathmatics team. Pathmatics, again, is the digital source of truth and social media source of truth, right, for all of our competitive spend numbers. When you open up the platform, for the first time, your homepage is going to look like mine, right? It actually has a little dashboard here, and we'll touch on that actually, I think maybe in the future sessions to kind of, how to get more quick updates, right? You can kind of set up your dashboard to get, quick flags or emails to your inbox saying like, hey, a competitor dropped a new advertisement, right? But we're going to focus on creating a report today, getting all that data out of here and getting it in Excel. You're going to start up here on the top left with reports. You're going to click that. And then what's going to pop up here is going to be the report builder. And this is really I would say, the bread and butter of Pathmatics. Let's create a new report. You can see all these reports that we've done in the past. And again, you can actually save reports. So let's say you have a report the team always needs to create every quarter, or is a consistent deliverable from your team. You can create kind of a saved template, so you don't really have to kind of do this process every time. You can just quickly change the dates you need, click run, and have it export. But right here's the report builder. And step one of report builder is really kind of putting in, what do we need out of here? What are the competitors we're looking at, right? What data do we want to pull out of the platform? So for instance, let's go with Microsoft. It's going to come up here, and you'll see actually that a lot of the brand, right? You'll see not just Microsoft, the advertiser, but you'll see a lot of their products and brands underneath here as well.
Ian, I don't know if you're able to zoom at all, but
yeah, let's see. Oh yeah, that looks way better. Sorry about that, guys. Perfect. So up here in this first box is where you'll be able to type in, right, what advertisers you want to pull data against. So if it's Microsoft, right, we type in Microsoft, and you're starting to get actually things that are not just Microsoft, the kind of the advertiser level company. You're getting its products, its sub brands, etc. I always suggest pulling at the highest level possible. So pulling at the advertiser level in Pathmatics. What that's going to do is basically pull in Microsoft for us, but also pull in everything underneath it. So when we want to manipulate the data in Excel or pivot, right, we can get all those sub brands and products underneath Microsoft. We'll add a few more in here. We'll just add in Apple Inc. And let's add in, we can actually add in Google. Let's add in Google. Publisher, I wouldn't really always add in publishers. This is specifically if you want to filter all the data through one publisher itself. So if I put in ESPN here, for instance, or ESPN.com, all the data that would be spit back at us would only be for ESPN.com. So actually, I'd suggest leaving this blank. I would suggest leaving sales channel and purchase channel blank for now. And then dates, you can obviously choose, right? You see a ton of, kind of set up pre-made options, right? But I like going to custom options. Let's say the request we're looking for is month over month for these competitors, their spend for the year of 2023, right? We can just kind of quickly choose our dates, press done. Over here, you'll see on the right-hand side that those dates change, so that's great. And again, categories, we can actually leave that be. In a similar way, a publisher, it would just kind of focus all the data through that one category. And devices, again, if we leave all these blank, they're going to default to all, which is totally okay. I would suggest doing that. Now that we have the advertiser chosen, this is really kind of the, I guess, the big part of Report Builder. It's like, what do you need to get out of this? What is the request you're being asked from, the client or internally? So these are all the filters we have access to. And on the bottom here, you actually see kind of how your report's going to be exported, which is great. So when you're clicking some of these, you might actually see the bottom here change. So it gives you kind of a gut check as to, oh, does this look like what I need? So up here for choose columns, right, we're going to always include sub brands. So because we included Microsoft at the advertiser level, the highest level, we want to make sure we're including sub brands, because that's going to give us that extra detail to isolate maybe Microsoft tablets versus, Microsoft Office spend, right? And maybe we want to be, again, very specific to whatever PA you're on. Maybe we only want to look at laptop spend versus, Microsoft, as we all know, spends a lot on a lot of products. So we want to be as specific as possible. By including sub brands and pulling at the highest level, you will get that specificity. Publisher, right? What websites or what did our competitors spend on? Did they run on ESPN? Did they run on Food Network? I'm making this up, right? But again, that's great insight, and that could provide us context as to maybe their targeting strategy, their audience strategy, right? Maybe it's a specific campaign and they are only running on recipe and food-based websites, right? Versus, only sports websites. Making sure to include publisher is a great way to kind of better understand, right, that audience or targeting strategy. Monthly, again, this is just going to, or date, excuse me, is going to be how, right, the data is just exported for us. As you can see, Pathmatics can provide a daily level of breakdown. It can provide monthly, quarterly, yearly, broadcast week, right, if you needed to, to align it honestly with, maybe some TV spend. It might be good to pull broadcast week. But right, for this instance, and I will say for a lot of the requests that, we've historically seen, we always kind of stick to monthly. Not saying you can't use these others, they're all there for you. Device is, I don't know why they use the word device. It should just be the name media channel, but it is called device. This is going to tell you what channel they spent their digital money, their spend on, right? So is it mobile video? Is it desktop display? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram, right? Make sure to include this. Device is important. Direct versus indirect refers to basically, did our competitors buy the advertisements or the ad space programmatically, or did they buy it directly from the publisher, right? And again, that can provide insight into maybe, again, their targeting strategy. Are they buying programmatically? And we see that they're only really popping up on sports-oriented websites. Okay, that means, right, that they have some type of maybe, targeting on, on their programmatic buys that is specific to, right, again, sports, right? Or maybe we know that they bought direct and they have a much larger activation with said publisher, and that's why they bought direct, right? These are just some things, and I know I'm going quickly, but just some things that you can pull insight from using some of these filters here, or kind of once you pull in these filters and take a look at the data, those are some of the insights you could start to build. Category, great to understand, where and what category your competitor is spending on. Is it specific to electronics? Is it specific to, any, fashion and retail, right? That's really what that's going to tell you. Region, again, I wouldn't really ever click this because we were usually focused on the US. And then creative details is also really great. I would suggest including the creative details. It's great to obviously understand kind of what type of ad was running. But what's really important is sometimes this first seen, last seen. And it really helps us understand, okay, when did our competitors start spending in the marketplace? Maybe they launched a new campaign and we want to understand what day their campaign launched, right? Great to have the first seen, last seen in there. We can understand also, right, when they ended their campaign. Maybe they only flighted for, or they only had a flight for 3 weeks, right? That's what this is going to tell you here. Video duration, again, maybe we want to understand, are they running 15s versus 30s, etc. The link to creative is very important. The data can actually, in the Excel, pull out the links directly. So all you have to do is click on that link in the data export, and it will show you the creative that ran. You can download it, drop it in a deck, or even just, get an understanding of, okay, what are our competitors talking about? What is Microsoft talking about for AI specifically, for instance, right? Or for their laptops. And landing page is also great because, again, it tells you kind of where that ad is driving to. Maybe it gives us insight into, okay, their competitors are running ads that are talking about laptops and they're all driving to their newest laptop, or they're driving to the AI section of their website. Again, these are just little things that Pathmatics has available to us that we can use to kind of start building some insights on our competitors' media plans. Creative text as well is a great resource, and we could dive into this deeper at some other time, but it's a great resource to basically understand kind of obviously what the copy is in a lot of our competitors' advertising and in their messaging, and then maybe we can use some fun filters there to basically isolate maybe things that aren't explicitly captured in the tool, but we can use this as a workaround to capture only a specific brand of laptop, for instance. So again, all that to say, creative details are pretty important in my opinion, especially in understanding the larger picture or story for our competitors. Spend and impressions are always going to be pulled in, and all you're going to do, team, is just click next once you have a good view of this, of kind of, okay, this is exactly what I want. This is basically telling you, hey, these are all the things you clicked. Does it look right? Maybe if it doesn't look right, you click and you go back to edit all filters. And maybe something doesn't look right here in the columns. We go back to edit all columns. And then what I would do is save and run now. So saving again is just saving it for future use. So we'll say test version 1. Great. It's going to save and run. It's going to, show up here. Right. And it's going to tell you it's running here, and the Pathmatics loads pretty quickly. Once it loads, it's going to say, give you a download button, right? It's going to say report download. It's going to export into Excel. And that's where you can have, all that fun manipulating and pivoting the data. Again, I know I've went through that really quickly, but I just wanted to give a team an understanding of, kind of the, I guess the bread and butter of the tool in that, like, hey, you got to get in here, get a job done, go to report builder, create a new report, select the filters you need based on the request, export it, and you're off to the races. And I will say that the leave behind, that deck that I was sharing earlier, will actually have a step-by-step guide with highlighting some of the, the buttons to click, which ones we recommend as kind of your base. This is all the filters you should always click. That's going to be in the deck. I'll obviously reshare it right after this meeting, but you didn't have to, capture everything I just said. I know I've been going quickly, but again, it will be in the deck, and we'll have step-by-step guide as to how to do what I just did. Are there any questions, team? I know I've been really flying through this, but I just want to jump into Vivix as soon as possible as well, because I know there's a lot of content here. But definitely let me know if there's anything on top of mind for you guys. This next section, right, is going to be Vivix, or our next tool. Again, this is our traditional media and search source of truth, and looks slightly different, obviously, than Pathmatics. And right, we're in here to pull a report. We want to generate a report. This stuff here on the front page, again, is similar to Pathmatics in that it's a dashboard that we can customize. That's something we can talk about at a later point. Something we can have set up and work with you guys to set up. So maybe that you're always getting kind of alerts or pings about any new creatives from Microsoft, for instance, your competitor, or any new spend in a new channel from, Apple, right? Again, these are just loose examples, but we're going to focus on creating a new report today. In the top left here on this toolbar on the side, you're going to see Explore. You're going to click that and just go to Create New Report. Oh, and I've been logged out due to inactivity. Sorry about that, guys. Awesome. All right. So now it's loading, but you're going to create a new report. And then basically, in a similar way, the report builder is going to pop up, and there's going to be a lot of things that we need to click to make sure we're including in our report. And we're going to go to the Layout tab first in Vivix. And right, you're going to see a ton of, honestly, filters and sorts that we can use and we have access to, right? And these are, again, maybe even just looking at them, maybe some of them pique your interest or might be able to support maybe some of your competitive intelligence requests, even more so, right? We have things obviously like, what category or major, right, your competitors are running in, right? The actual parent or advertiser that is spending the money, what media they're spending it on. Are they spending it on any local markets or DMAs? What properties, right? What publishers are they running it on? Are they running TV on TNT? Are they running it on Comedy Central, right? We can get that all from this tool. We can understand, right, what genres of TV shows our competitors are running on, right? Their program types. We can get, a ton of stuff. I'm not going to go through all of them. I know we have some limited time here, but all that to say is I would suggest the key is, and I would say the one thing to remember, and again, this is in the deck I'll share out afterwards, is change time period to pivot export. That is key. And again, if there's one thing you get out of this Vivix training in this portion, change column type to pivot export. It's going to make manipulating your data a lot easier. I suggest, and again, we actually included this in the deck, to include major category and subcategory. I'd suggest including parent, advertiser, brand, and product. And then from here, it's really up to you. But again, you always want to include time period, right? We want to understand when, or want to isolate, right, when they ran these in these media channels and how much. And you also want to include media, right? This is going to tell you what media channels they ran on. If you want to include property, that's also great, right? We want to understand where exactly on TV were they running. And then the remaining are kind of up to you and dependent on the request, right? We can pull creatives out of Vivix, for instance, but for this go, we're not going to do creatives. But again, we have access to creatives. If we want to pull GRPs, we actually can pull GRPs, right? To have a better understanding of TV strategies from our competitors, right? Are they running against a certain audience? Do they have a lot more GRPs against, 18 to 34-year-olds than we do? Are they running, 30s or 15s? Are they running, only sports or entertainment, right? Or do they have certain day parts they're always running in? Again, things we can glean from a lot of these sorts and filters that Vivix provides us. Today, we're just going to run a kind of straightforward, I would say a normal or kind of a request that we've seen kind of happen multiple times historically. Once you get these column types and filters right in a good spot, you've clicked all the ones you've wanted. Again, making sure to make column/type a pivot export. You're going to go to the Media Markets tab. From here, and this is also key, right? Going back to the fact that Pathmatics is our source of truth for digital media, the tool is going to auto-select all the digital media for you. What the team will need to do is actually unclick digital or deselect digital and actually select internet search. So we're only going to pull internet search from Vivix's digital data. And then actually we're going to remove AVOD as well, because we pull basically AVOD OTT data from Pathmatics as well. So I would say, and again, this is all outlined in the deck I'll share, these are the channels or the view of your channels that you want to include in your report. And every time you run a report from Vivix, this is how I would set up your TV and digital sections so that then we can use Pathmatics as our source of truth for everything else digital, right? We have cinema. We can see we have newspapers, Hispanic newspapers, right? So there's some granularity to some of these channels as well. For markets, I leave it as all, leave the default as all. And same with properties and languages, similar to Pathmatics. If you click on one of these, all the data you're going to pull is going to be pulled through that lens. So if I only click Albany, then all the data I'm going to get is only going to be specific to Albany, and you might be missing, right, all the other markets data. So that's why really it's important to kind of leave this blank. But again, if you needed to specifically focus on one DMA, one market, only wanted to understand New York's, our competitor spend specific to New York, that is when you'd use this filter here. And I'd also like to call attention to include house ads down here, right? A lot of those competitors of Google's, run their own, have their own advertising ecosystem, right? Are a publisher themselves, right? So if you include house ads, then the tool is going to include basically all the ads and provide attribute spend numbers to those ads that ran on their own platform. So if I pulled in Facebook in here, for instance, or actually, if I pulled in Google here, for instance, right, and Google runs search ads on Google search, by including house ads, you're making sure that the tool is providing you basically spend numbers for how much Google spends on its own platforms. So that's, again, something we called out in the deck, but I would include house ads here as well. Brands and categories, similar to Pathmatics, this is where you're going to type in who we're looking for. So if we need Microsoft, it's going to take a little bit longer to load than Pathmatics, unfortunately, but again, it's going to show us a ton of Microsoft products and brands and sub-brands. And then we're going to look for, again, the highest level in their hierarchy, basically, and how they organize their competitors. So for instance, Vivix refers to kind of the highest or the largest entity as a parent. So at the parent level. And again, we've dropped that into, I know I'm going quick, but we drop that into the deck. So if the team has any questions as to what's the highest, should I pull parent, should I pull advertiser, brand, it's all in the deck. I know I'll have access to it, but make sure to pull at the highest level, like Microsoft parent. And let's say we didn't know Microsoft Corp was the parent level, but we know Microsoft is what we're looking for. You can click it, go to drill to, go to parent, and then it's going to tell you, all right, the parent is Microsoft Corp. You're going to add that, and then everything here, right, is showing that, okay, we've included Microsoft Corp. The next is time periods. Again, very similar to Pathmatics. How do we want the data broken out? we want it at a monthly level. In this case, right, we're doing January 2023 through December 2023. Pretty simple. Make sure you click the dates you want. If you want weekly, you have it here, but as everyone saw, right, Pathmatics has daily. Vivix does not have the ability to provide us data at a daily level, unfortunately. You're going to just add that here. Make sure all of these months or your time ranges are right. If you click final data only, this will not provide you any preliminary data, unfortunately. So if you are pulling data that is pretty recent, as you can see here for data availability, which is also on this page, they actually might not have finalized data for it. So this data availability page is really important to understand that, okay, some of this data potentially might change in the future, right? If it's preliminary, and you can see here that the data is updated through from preliminary. And then over here on the left-hand side, you see when the data is finalized. So that's really when the data shouldn't change too much. So if you ever pull a report today, and then 2 months from now, you pull another report of the same time period, a reason why the data could be slightly different is because Vivix restates their data, they restate preliminary data, right, on the back end, and each channel, unfortunately, has a different load and finalization time period. We usually say it's 6 to 8 weeks for a lot of the traditional media channels, while Pathmatics has a much more recent time frame for their finalized data. I mean, we can get data from ads that were, running yesterday on Pathmatics. Once you have all the time ranges here, I'd go to summary in a similar vein, right? You see kind of the things we've clicked, the things that maybe we didn't click. Does this all look right? Maybe I forgot to include a media channel. Maybe I accidentally included a digital channel that, again, we shouldn't include for a Vivix data pull. Just gut checking you here. And it's simple as clicking run up here on the top. And of course, I forgot the name. And that is how to generate the reports from Vivix and the traditional source of truth for us and Pathmatics. I know we're at time. I know I flew through a ton of things, but I really wanted to make sure that the team kind of understands a little bit of nuance and insight into kind of, where are these competitive numbers coming from, how to generate those reports. And of course, the deck that I'm going to share has a little bit more insight. But we're also not kind of just throwing this at you and saying, go off, you're off to the races. We're here to help. Definitely reach out to us if you have any additional questions, of course, but reach out to us for a login. If you just want to play around in the tool, get a sense of it. I think that's the best way to learn. And if you obviously have any questions or requests from the client and you're having trouble getting any data or a specific cut of data out of the tool, again, the R&I team's here to help you and help you navigate, the tools and get exactly what you need out of these reports. So appreciate your time. I know we're a little over time, but if anyone has any questions and can stay for, a few more minutes, I'm happy to answer them. All right. Well, I know you guys will probably have questions as soon as you guys dive in to the tools, as everyone does. But of course, keep us posted. Hopefully this provided some context to all the competitive data and requests that everyone gets. I know it's always a busy time when we get those requests. So I'm happy to help and definitely reach out to us if there are any more questions, team. Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Ian.